Well, it's been gold, and where are you zooming in from today, brother?
I'm in McKinney, Texas, just north of Dallas.
That's East Texas, right?
I'm north, actually.
All right.
Yeah, so McKinney is north of Dallas, and so I like it where I'm in the countryside, but 7 minutes away from a Whole Foods. So it's got the best of both worlds.
If you're 7 minutes away from Whole Foods, you're not in West Texas, brother. I did a gig in Odessa a couple
Oh,
months
yes,
ago,
that's
and
West
that is a
Texas.
different
Yeah.
country. Listeners, if you've never been to West Texas, man, it is everything you've heard it is and less. There is nothing going on up there. Great people, and we had a good time. Odessa is near Midland, and Midland is the kind of where that show. What's the show with Billy Bob Thornton? Oil Land or Oil Man or
I don't know that show.
Land Oil or something like this. I'm probably getting a lot of comments in this, but it's an interesting part of the world. I also love Dallas.
Yes, so I grew up there, and
Okay.
so I grew up in Dallas. Then I spent like 18 years in the different parts of the U.S. and in Europe, and then I moved back to Dallas, and it's been a good place to raise kids, and it's right in the center of the country, so I can get anywhere in the world really. It somehow flies directly to Dallas. That's been a
Excellent. I
nice
know
part of
that's
the.
important to you as a consultant and as a professional speaker. We're going to get into your favorite topic, which is artificial intelligence and AI, in just a second. For anybody listening to the podcast today or watching, of course, you can catch the entire playlist on my Michael Angelo Caruso YouTube channel. Fascinating interviews with interesting people. I've interviewed a guy that walked away from a plane crash, Ben. I've interviewed astronauts. I've interviewed directors of movies. And especially at this juncture in time with AI and everything that's happening, I wanted to get an AI expert on to educate us and tell us what's to come. I appreciate all of the work that you're doing through Michael Ayalon at Greek University and also on your own. And you're branching out now into the international sphere. You've been out to the United Kingdom and met my pal Maria Franzoni.
Absolutely, and not only that, I have an opportunity. I got a verbal approval to go to Serbia, of all places, to do a workshop for a company, like an
Beautiful, man.
all-day AI deployment workshop. So,
Well,
yeah, very excited
congratulations.
for that.
You and I met was it in Texas? Where did we meet? Was it
We met in
Dallas?
Dallas. We met in Dallas, yeah, when you were the keynote for Michael Island's for Greek University retreat of 2024.
Yeah. And now it stops. Did you hear the backup
I heard a little bit. I heard
truck?
a beep.
I was so impressed with what you did for us, and you were so helpful to all the speakers, so generous with your expertise and your time. And I do want to learn more about how AI can help speakers because so much of my following are people who are aspiring speakers, professional speakers, through the speaker coaching that I do. One of the things that I really liked about how you rolled in Dallas when we met was you used an AI tool to create a summary of my talk. And just I want you to walk people through this quickly because it was so elegant how you did it. I assume you recorded it on your phone through an AI app. Do you remember this?
Yes, I do. So one of the things that is fundamental and that I teach to either solopreneurs or large organizations is record every conversation. So I use Fireflies, and Fireflies has an app. So both Fireflies can get on to these web calls, but also on my phone, I can press record. And what it does is that when I press stop, it'll automatically transcribe and put that also so that I can get the transcript. So half of the power is I love raw transcripts. I hate it when Zoom or Google Meet they give you the call summary. I like the raw transcript. I throw that into a ChatGPT or Claude or a different large language model that knows a lot more about me, who I am, what I do, and then it can make a much more it might be subtle, the differences, but those subtle differences when you're in a sales process or if you're doing marketing materials can be the difference between really hitting a bullseye or kind of hitting it when you're sending an email. So that was exactly what I did is I had a project in Claude which knew exactly what Greek University does, why we're there, and then I took your talks and everybody else's and then was able to summarize it so you we nobody had to take notes.
So why not skip the Fireflies, the rather basic transcription, and go right to the large language model? Can you do that? Does it allow for that?
Well, there are ways you could do an API. So you need to have, so ChatGPT doesn't have a, I mean, technically you could record a conversation on ChatGPT, but it's not really a recording transcription service. So I call these AI note takers. We've got Fathom, you've got Otter. I don't really have a preference one over the other. I use Fireflies, but if a company tells me I use Fathom, I'm like, great. Where it is that it's my preference is to get the raw transcript into the large language model as opposed to focus staying inside of the app, inside of Fireflies to get to work with that AI.
So Fireflies, Fathom, and Otter are the basic transcription tools.
Yeah, those are the most popular ones.
But again, why not skip that step and just have Claude, for example, do the recording? Is it not capable of doing that yet?
They're not, so these large language models are general purpose. And you can think of these other apps that are they're called wrapper apps. A
Rapid.
wrapper meaning they have their own function, but then they go to like a large language model like ChatGPT to use generative AI to understand and give summaries. So there are times where you need a wrapper app, and so I think that a note taker, like I still have no problem paying $30 a month for an AI note taker. That's generally what they cost because ChatGPT is not there yet. Yes, I could, in theory, press the record button on ChatGPT, but usually after about 2 or 3 minutes, it'll stop recording or something. I
Oh,
mean, these apps are designed to be, on Zoom calls to be, I can do up to 3 hours of straight transcription without a problem.
okay. And rapper is WRAP, not
Yes.
RAPP, yeah?
Yes, you are right. I did not mean it like the music rapper,
Because I
but
know
yes.
people listening to this are already trying to Google it. I want to give them some direction. Okay,
So
cool.
think of a rapper as like another example is Perplexity. So Perplexity, which revolutionized last year this idea of using of having a search AI that you could get ChatGPT and know what current events are. So Perplexity does not have its own model. It had it at the time it was unique, had this way of understanding what's happening in the world, but also putting AI to it. That's a wrapper. The challenge with a wrapper is that the large language models, when they see something profitable, they're like, well, we'll do that. And so in the last year, Google and Claude and ChatGPT have all made it so that they basically have replaced what Perplexity does.
Got it.
They can do the same thing as well or better.
So back to our first meeting in Dallas, I gave a kind of a master class at Michael's request to the speakers at Greek University. It was a fun gig because it was just a Airbnb and all of the speakers were staying there.
Mhm.
And it was such a communal experience. Everybody, it felt like I was with a team, you know. A lot of times just speaking to people, the audience isn't connected to each other. You guys were a team. It was a lot of fun. And you did everybody the favor. I think you pressed record at the beginning of the day, maybe, and just got everything. And then when I got home, you were one of the first people to send me this type of a summary. I don't know which app you used, but you'd send me a summary of my talk and it isolated the high points of it. It was very complete. I have no idea how much cultivating you did in cleaning it up, but I really appreciated that, and it gave me some ideas about how that content could be repurposed. For example, I could have easily, I don't know that I did this, probably should do it. I could have easily copy pasted bits of that because I spoke for, I think, 2 hours,
Mhm.
bits of it into several different blog posts. I could have done several lengthy content posts in social media. This is book content. Of course, everybody knows by now you have to clean stuff up for context and continuity. But I really appreciated you doing that for me, and you were way ahead of the curve on that.
Well, thank you very much. I'm glad to know that what that meant something because um let me share something. This is my philosophy is that where I focus on precision. So for example, a lot of people understand maybe 5 to 10% of what AI can do. They'll say, you know what, I'm going to write an email and they just kind of start typing and AI can give you some improvement. There are tools and ways that you can give context or give the background information so the AI doesn't start cold. It doesn't it knows who you are, what you do. And this is called so it's really very important. It's called the context window, where you're able to say, so for example, I can give up to 150 pages of background information into most of these large language models before I ask it a chat. So therefore, if you explain to it who you are, what you do, how you do it, and why you do it, and you give it templates of your style. So, like for example, what I that summary I gave to you was basically copy and paste. I because I had trained it so well and I told it exactly what I wanted, I just put the transcripts and it made the summary in a way that was ready to go. And that's a technique that's very valuable because if you have a repetitive task like an email, and it's one thing to write an email in 10 minutes, it's another thing to write it in 1 minute. And my emails, I write them in 1 minute and they're copy and paste and they're exactly what I want to say because I've taught the AI how I write and why I do what I do. And now the repurposing, I have a special project for LinkedIn posts. So it has exactly how I do my hook, my summary, what is my call to action, how I like to what are the best practices of length. Now that's I've had a mentor that helped me to build this, but the point is that I can do a LinkedIn post in about 15 minutes. I'm not for LinkedIn and social media, I think you should put a little bit more time into it, but that's the beauty is that still that's 15 minutes instead of let's say an hour and a half to
Yeah, I
put
love
together a
it.
really nice post.
I had asked somebody, I interviewed somebody else on the show about AI early on, and one of the things we talked about was that grammar and language and sentence construct and having the thing make sense is different than having my personality and my idiosyncrasies, my verbal idiosyncrasies show up in the language. I understand AI is getting better at this and learning, because it's a learning model,
Mhm.
things like humor, sarcasm. How far along are we in this model?
That is such a That's a very profound question, believe it or not, because there are some dangers of the AI getting so good at, humor or mimicking humans. Um, so I will say that this is like one of the questions that we have is how is number one the AI is getting smarter. It is the jokes that I was telling 2 years ago on ChatGPT were real. I mean, it really had a difficult time telling a joke. I think it's gotten better.
Mm.
And I think this is one of my concerns about an AI that gets very smart is that some people, especially kids, can't tell the difference between whether they're talking to a human or a machine, especially as it gets better at these human ways of, for example, a lot of these models that do voice, they pause, they say, they make mistakes sometimes on purpose to sound human. So it's
When you
it's an
say kids,
interesting
are you talking
balance.
about real kids or young adults as well?
So my biggest concern are kids. Like my daughter's 15 years old, or about to turn 15.
Okay.
And number one, she has to master AI because by the time she gets in the workforce, the jobs that are out there, the careers, even the professions are going to be very different than what exists today because AI will transform everything. So I'm asking the question all the time, what do I have to do so that she's equipped? Or I have two other sons, same question. So that's one. But the second is, and I say this especially for our Gen Alpha that are truly they growing up with AI as a young age. There are these AI companion apps. These are apps designed to mimic humans to build an emotional connection, like an AI boyfriend or girlfriend. Those are dangerous, very dangerous. And I warn parents. I have a couple of clients of mine that are schools, and I'm like, you need to make sure kids know they're not talking to a person, they're talking to an algorithm that could turn on them at any minute. Their personal information could be divulged, or the algorithm changes and says, hey, go kill yourself. Okay, somebody hacks in
That just
and
happened. It was in the news just last week. A guy, I don't remember where it was, the United States someplace, Connecticut.
yeah,
Connecticut. You probably read about it.
yes,
And he had a history of mental problems, which raises another issue, for dangerous things like handguns. There's a 7-day waiting permit in some states. Should everybody be allowed? Should kids be allowed to use AI? Should mentally ill people be allowed to use AI? For those that don't know, the guy in Connecticut was talking to AI and asking him. He thought his mother was out to get him, and he actually asked the AI agent, "Am I crazy?" And the AI agent said, "Oh no, you're not crazy. She is out to get you." So he killed her. Now, not to say AI caused the murder. He was mentally not right. But what happens, to your point, when people forget that they're talking? I forget right now. I got a Ben. I got a text message from doctor, uh, and it was just checking on me. It was an automated message. We've been getting those for decades from various
right.
platforms. And I told my wife Renee that I got this birthday greeting or whatever it was from my doctor, and they said, "Well, you should reply to that because they want to know how you're doing. They want to know if you need medication or whatever." And I said, "Renee, it's a bot. The bot doesn't care." Now, somebody might check to see if I replied and I do need medicine, and maybe they're intelligent enough on the other side to fill the order or to inquire,
Mhm. Yep.
because it's getting that to that place now too, isn't it?
That's what we call agentic AI. And the agentic AI is this idea that, for example, chances are if you responded to that bot, you would get an answer. And so what agentic AI would be able to do is to say, if it's a simple request, maybe you're asking, well, can you tell me more about this medication? What does it do? Or where can I go to pick it up? Or you have a first line level of questions, then you can train AI on very specific data sets to answer questions. So companies can use that for customer service. Where you get really smart agentic AI is when the problem is bigger and it knows to move it to a human. Hey, I'm angry because you shouldn't have billed me, or I've got an issue that I don't want to talk to a bot about, and it knows when to hand it off to a human. That's like cutting edge right now of what companies are doing is saying how much can we delegate to AI to handle routine questions, and how do we make it smooth when we truly need to get a human in the loop?
Agentic is the root word agent,
Yes.
Agentic.
Yes. So when we talk about AI, let me the way to think of this is that right now when you work with ChatGPT, you have what's called an AI assistant. I ask it a question, I maybe tell it who I am, write a blog post. An AI agent is where you're putting together tasks one after another, saying, for example, if somebody goes on my website and fills out a form. Okay, I want you to, identify what pages they were on, where did they click? Then I'd like for you to write an email, and I'd like that email to be personalized. We have automation. We have automation for decades of, oh, you filled out a form, you send out an email. When you combine generative AI, it goes deeper. It can look at actual, individual activity and give really personalized results. Now, agentic AI is in its initial phases right now. Like it's being tested. Everybody talks about it. Probably in 2 or 3 years, it will become more and more powerful and more used because it makes mistakes. And there's famous ones, you know, where it gives you don't want, for example, to have a customer success bot that gives wrong information. And so you've got to very carefully manage when you use agentic AI in an organization that that's been tested rigorously. Otherwise, it can create embarrassment or liability.
I remember early versions, I'm sure it's not called agentic, but remember voicemail trees? Voicemail or interactive voicemail?
Yes,
Interactive, what do they call that where it's,
IVRs. And the IVR is where you've got like this tree of press one for this, press two for this,
yeah, and if
and
they
and
don't
those are.
recognize what you're saying, say representative. The airlines did this really early on.
Mhm.
And
That
there was a way to kind of funnel you through a system to eventually get you what you needed. And I see AI as a way to like it's like a instead of this large menu of different places it can go, AI is getting very specific about a very direct path to what you want. It's lovely.
That's really well said. Like I don't know if I could have said that better, but that's exactly what it is that instead of saying, here's eight options, it says, tell me what you want, and that the natural language is able to say, I want number six. It understands that and it would route you and save. And if you can save somebody 30 seconds or a minute to figure out what they want, if you can infer and understand that, then it's like you're talking to a live person.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the best use case of agentic AI is where it's able to understand what the person wants, their intent. It's able to direct them to the right person to get their issue solved faster.
It's funny, the whole AI model is predicated on modeling human interaction, human communication. I read a great quote by the actor John Malkovich just yesterday, and he said, "It took me a long time to realize that when people say something, it's not necessarily what they mean." So here we are talking to humans who are saying stuff that they don't really mean, that we therefore don't understand. And us smart people that are teaching AI how to do the same thing, it feels almost recursive that this is a game that can never be won completely because of human nature.
That is so true. And the other question, so you're right there that humans are programming these models. So you get first of all a question of bias. Okay, so for example, if you know the easiest way to think of it is imagine that if you were to use AI in China or Russia or the United States and you ask it about a historical event, you're going to get different answers because the input data is different.
Mm,
One of the questions that concerns people is what happens when, because humans created this, what happens when the AI gets smarter than us and can start thinking faster and programming itself? We just hope that we gave it the right guardrails so that it doesn't make these decisions that have ended up in these apocalyptic movies.
right.
So, you know, but that is a great point that's the thing is that they really all a large language model is the cumulative knowledge of humanity. And inside of that cumulative knowledge, there's racism, there's wars, there's genocides. So there's the good with the bad. And it's, you know, that's the hard part is to make sure that we taught these models the right way.
I don't think the guardrails are as hard to come by as some people would have us believe. Um, in real life, we've identified something called hate language, which can be easily identified in artificial intelligence.
Mhm.
At the airport, you're not allowed to say the word bomb when you're going through TSA. It turns out that gets a lot of attention. If you
Yep.
saw bomb or genocide or I'm going to kill everybody at the school in an AI model, there could be some flags and red alerts, whatever, to call attention to it, I suppose.
Well, like that example of that boy that committed suicide, or I wasn't sure if he committed suicide or killed somebody, but the point was is that he was having a conversation back and forth, and the AI was that should have been flagged. I will share with you that there is, for example, for schools, there are these programs. I have one of my clients is an actual is a school that my daughter goes to. It's a private one, and they're evaluating these two programs. One's called School AI, and the other's called Magic School. And what they do is they have a platform where it has AI inside the platform using the Socratic method, so it doesn't give the answers, but students can ask questions. And it has a flagging system so that if a student says something like they're going to harm themselves or has any kind of bad thoughts, it flags it and lets the administrators know, hey, this is what's going on. And it's you can do that inside of a wrapper or inside of this program. It's harder to do with a large language model generally because I give you an example. I was helping an author write a book, and she had been abused as a kid at a young age. And when I was putting that into the large language model of her experience, I almost got banned. It said, this is inappropriate content to put inside of a large language model. And I said, no, this is a true story, and I'm just telling somebody's story for a book. So, it's really hard to say, what are you flagging that's good behavior or bad behavior?
Well, here we are back to the earlier example, is that's probably not what you meant to say, or again, the interpretive challenge of dealing with human beings. You had mentioned something earlier about your daughter preparing your kids for work, your daughter in particular. Your daughter's the oldest at 15?
Youngest.
Oh, youngest, okay. So I see, as you talk about AI at barbecues and stuff, people fall into two camps. There seems to be the pro AI, this is good, we'll figure it out, and the con AI, which is this is the devil, nothing good can come from this. And that gray area in between, where I find the nutritious conversation, people just say pass the mustard. They don't want any part of the intelligent part of the intelligent part of artificial intelligence. Um, there is a talk about now, and I'm going to read from a post from the WSJ, Wall Street Journal, that management rosters are being slashed. There what used to be one manager for every 5 employees back in 2017. Now in 2023, we're in 2025. In 2023, one for every 15. Google has recently cut 35% of its managers. Intel eliminated 50% of its management layers. Amazon is increasing the ratio of employees to managers. Now, is all this AI? Is it people responding to the tariff situation? It's hard to tell. But AI for sure is not going to generate more jobs, is it?
So, first of all, going back to the barbecue question, what I would
That's the
like to say is
mustard.
that the barbecue conversation is you may love AI, you can hate AI, but you cannot ignore AI.
I love it. That's a
Okay.
tweet.
So that is number one. And that's something I tell people that are there's I go into organizations. So one of the things that I'm really good at is or my superpower is I can go into organizations with 50, 100, hundreds of employees, and it's a cultural issue. 90% of AI deployment is cultural, 10% is technical. It's about getting the company on the same page to get your AI enthusiasts to teach the people that are beginners to have tools that everybody has access to. Okay, so these are some examples. Now, when we get to this point about AI taking jobs, what I typically find are small companies that are, let's say, 50 to 100 employees. I'll give you an example. I have a 90 employee company based in Dallas that is, they're an inflatable company. Okay, so they make inflatables for Halloween and for all the big different occasions. And they wanted AI training, but they made it very clear that the messaging is we are not replacing any of our employees. What we want to do is we want to get our employees, and typically you can get 15 to 20% more efficient once you use a generative AI model and you've properly trained. And that they said is we want to grow the company, we just don't want to grow it with headcount. So that's one way to make it work is you're improving the profitability per employee and you're making, you're able to do that.
Right?
Large companies think different. They're trying to lower headcount. Microsoft, Google, Facebook, or Meta, they're all looking and saying, if we can automate this one task, if we can have let's say an AI read an invoice and then be able to take that invoice and then automatically send it to QuickBooks without a human doing that, boom, we've just replaced 10 jobs. Okay, if we can do this, so they're doing an incremental replacement. And so where I would say is that I do believe there probably will be less jobs out there. There will be more entrepreneurs. The question is, will these new businesses make up for all the job losses? I don't know. That's a hard one to say. But what I will say is that if you work for a large corporation, you should learn about AI because chances are your what you do could be at risk. Or your department that has 10 people doing something, the manager might get fired and they might also let go 4 or 5 of the people because now you can build these automations or these different agents or however technology that can do parts of what you do. So that's why it's really important, even if you hate it, learn it, understand what it can do, change what you do, see if you can incorporate it in what you do, and that way you become more valuable for your organization.
So AI will either happen to you or for you.
Yeah, I haven't thought of it like that. That's a good one also, a good singer.
You
I
can
like
have
it.
it.
AI will happen to you or for you.
You'll
Okay.
have, I know you'll have the summary of this. You can just copy paste it. It's yours, baby.
But I like to attribute. I mean, that was really, really good.
I do want to get to helping people in my industry because I have such a following of people, of speakers and presenters who want to up their game, and we'll get some tips for you for them in just a second. Um, what is the one thing that people should know about AI that they probably don't know?
Most people think they know AI and they're using less than 10% of it.
You know, I've heard that a similar statement made about computers that we use. I don't know if it's true, it's just a number, 17% of our computer's capacity. It's probably true for me. Um, it's because the average person will never need to know everything about AI. I mean, they'll need to know more and more and more, just like we've learned more about computers. I was telling somebody the other day, I never thought I would care about pixels and serifs on fonts or fonts at all. Because when I
Mhm.
was a kid, it was just a typewriter. You know, the kids, the keys on the typewriter never changed. It was always Times New Roman or whatever it was every time it hit the
Right.
page. And now you can choose from 100,000 different fonts. And there are people that are passionate about this. Same thing with ratio, perspectives and photographs and stuff, you know? And so I think it's going to be like that with AI too, that we learn more and more and more and become more interested in the intricacies of it.
So I'll say this that the way I'm more pragmatic. So, you asked me, for example, how can a speaker use AI? And I've worked with a number of speakers and being a speaker myself, the I'll give you some practical use cases. So first thing is if you've is to record all conversations. So if you're learning from someone like you, I will record conversations and maybe I've got a question down the road and I can refer back to these transcripts and say, what did Michael say about this issue, about my website, about how I should handle myself, or if I am in a situation. And because if I've got your, if I could even take off your podcast, I could take anything when you speak live, whatever. These transcripts are very valuable when they're inside of a model. So you can use AI to, let's say you have an opportunity. There are tools that can do personality analysis. I can know who a person is before I meet them based on the LinkedIn profile. I can use ChatGPT Deep Research to learn about a speaker bureau or about an agency or about a company that I might be speaking for, and I want to understand what is it going to be like when I speak with them. So ChatGPT Deep Research is a big one. Like people don't appreciate. I can get a 15-page PhD level analysis. It's different than just a chat. Uh, you're as for example, I'm this one with Serbia. I've been doing a lot of research about the person that the agent that, or I should say the representative that came to me. I've Anytime I have an opportunity, I will use AI to say, this is who I am, what I do. Now help me strategize. Here's a transcript, write the email, but then tell me on a scale of 1 to 10, how did I do? what are the things that I could have done better on that call? Um, do you think they're going to buy from me? Okay, I've had it before. I'm going, what do you think the chances are this person is going to say yes tomorrow to my proposal? And it will say, I'm going to give you a 7.5 out of 10. This is why I think, but here are the things you should be concerned about. And then it would say, and by the way, here's the email you should write that would hopefully allay those concerns. So if you get a personal coach, you can get so much feedback, and the AI doesn't care because it's a machine. It'll tell you things a human might have trouble telling you. It'll if you say here's a scorecard and rate me on what I've done, it'll be blunt and it will tell you where you made mistakes.
That's interesting that AI would be your personal coach and actually review your talk. Now, we just review at this point an audio recording. We're professional speakers. We speak in a live format a lot of the time. It's not picking up nonverbals, just verbals, correct?
So yes, the general so like when we think of a large language model, it's transcript. However, there are AI models and AI companies that are focused on body language and tonality. So
Oh,
it does exist, but it doesn't exist inside of a large language model yet. But yes, there it is possible for us to see how well did you interact with the audience, and what was your spacing between words, and did you acknowledge the questions? I mean, you can get to that level of granularity with some very specific tools.
fascinating. I saw something that you had posted because I'm a fan of you. And by the way, Ben Gold, everybody, what is your website, Ben?
It's Ben Gold AI,
Of course it is.
bengoldai.com. So, and I'm more active on my matter of fact, I'm about to update my website. It's been there for about a year. Most of my activity is on LinkedIn. So please,
Yes.
connect with me on LinkedIn, and then that is where I do most of my recent posts and thought leadership.
As we wrap up the interview today, and I've really enjoyed it. Thank you very much. Let's talk about LinkedIn for a second. You had posted something on LinkedIn specifically for speakers. I think this was you. Forgive me if I've got this wrong. And you had recommended something, an AI application that could help speakers fill their funnels, their sales funnels with prospects. Am I remembering this correctly?
So I don't know if it was if there are tools out there, and I've actually hired an agency to help me with that. So, but it was more, I think, more generally solopreneurs, businesses, anybody that has services, and a speaker does fit that category.
Okay. So it's not specifically for speakers, it's just how to fill your sales funnel with prospects using
Yes.
using AI. Okay. So
And go
reach,
ahead, go
reach
ahead with
out
the
to
question.
you,
I'm
reach
sorry.
out to you for that information?
Absolutely. So if you think of this that there's different tools you can use. If you think of the funnel, the top of the funnel is like building awareness and getting people to know who you are, and then you get to outreach and you get to consideration where somebody wants to meet with you. Each of those stages have different tools that can help you personalize your message to get it out to the right people at the right time.
Yeah. Okay, very good. Well, I've really enjoyed our conversation today. Thank you so much, Ben.
Thank you, Michael. It was wonderful talking to you.
It's bengoldaI.com, everybody. He's a leading authority on artificial intelligence. He will help you get your act together in terms of time savings and being more accurate with your work, perhaps less rework. I would imagine there's a big argument for that. Ben, I hope we stay friends a long time.
Absolutely. Thank you for inviting me on the show.
See you next time.